This is Dr. Catherine Collins. I don't know if anyone will ever hear this. It's all over. I'm the only one left. There's data coming through faster than I can encode it. I've already lost 2 processors. They keep burning out.
Please, I love you. You need to get out of there. It's not safe.
I need you, Stephen. I need you here. I can open the gate manually. I can let you in.
It's too dangerous. You don't understand what's happening out here.
No, you don't understand. We can solve this. We can find a way.
Kate, people are disappearing. Shut it down now.
No. If you won't help me, I'll do it on my own.
We're responsible for all this. You and me.
It's not just you and me anymore, though, is it?
Hello. Today I will be critiquing the game Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is set deep within the Shropshire countryside at 6:07 AM on June 6, 1984. The village of Yawton stands empty. Toys lie forgotten in the playground. The wind blows quarantine leaflets around the silent churchyard. Down on Appleton's farm, crops rustle unattended. The early harvest abandoned halfway through. The birds lie where they have fallen. A pair of shoes hang from the overhead wires. The windmill continues to turn unobserved. Strange voices haunt the radio waves as uncollected washing hangs listlessly on the line. There is light on the wires. The televisions are turned to vacant channels. Above it all, the telescopes of the observatory point out at the dead stars and endless darkness, and someone remains behind to try and unravel the mystery. Uncover the traces of the vanished community. Discover fragments of events and memories to piece together the mystery of the apocalypse. Featuring a beautiful, detailed open world and a haunting soundtrack, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is non-linear storytelling at its best. Today I will be speaking to you about the formal and dramatic elements of the game. First of all, how does the player interact with the game? Well, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is a single player game. At the beginning of the game there is a small cutscene where the main character Kate tells you that it is all over and she is the only one left. After a short intro movie, the player is placed outside the town observatory. You can hear loud static coming from a shed. The player must follow this sound, and once they reach the shed they find a radio. Kate tells you that she is trying to keep the signal going, and you can find it throughout the valley. This gives the player a subtle hint that they must find radios throughout the game world. Next is the objectives of the game. The objective in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is to explore the open world and piece together what has happened to the people of Yawton Valley. The village of Yawton is empty with no signs of life. You are not told who the player is, and the only way to understand what has happened is to follow and interact with floating lights. When you interact with these lights, they show you dialogue and important events leading up to whatever happened in the village. Now I'll speak to you about rules. I found it hard to think of rules for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, but the one element of the game that comes to mind is the opening. At the beginning you were placed exactly outside the town's observatory. There is a shed right in front of the player from the beginning. You can hear the static of the radio coming from the outside. Once you enter the shed you can hear voices coming from the radio. Once you approach the radio, a prompt telling you to press the X button appears. There is also a TV next to the radio that plays a loop of the observatory. This is the game's subtle way of telling you that you must approach objects like this and press X to interact with them. Later on, you begin to understand that you can also interact with doors in the game, and you must also press X to interact with them. Also, when you meet the first floating light in the game, you are prompted on screen to move your controller either to the left or to the right to interact with the floating light. Once you do this, the light lets out a burst of energy and shows you a scene relating to a specific character. Each area of the game has a ball of light that you must follow. Each area reveals the events of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture through the eyes of different characters. The procedures of the game are very simple. You are presented with the rules of interaction within the game from the very start. The player understands from the prompts given in the first 5 minutes of the game that they must follow the floating lights and find radios to interact with. The players of the game can use this procedure to make it to the end of the game whilst understanding what has happened in the village. The procedure occurs in 5 areas throughout Jotun Valley. Each area has a different character for you to follow. If you miss a floating light or radio, then you miss a piece of storyline, and there is often no way to go back and retrieve something you've missed. The floating light usually appears at the start of each area and floats all the way to the end of the area once it has shown you everything about the character it relates to. The player interacts with these floating lights by rotating the controller to the left or to the right. Often game procedures can be made up of several types of procedures. These can include starting actions, progression of action, special action and resolving action. The starting action of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is to walk around using the left stick. The progression of action is to interact with these floating lights to uncover storyline. Special actions are interacting with radios in the game. The resolving action is the observatory at the end of the game where you finish the storyline. Resources. The main resources in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture are radios and floating lights. Radios help you understand more about what happened at the observatory with Kate and Stephen. Whilst everyone was panicking below in the village of Jotun, Kate stayed at the observatory to try and understand and communicate with the strange pattern, which she believed to be a unique form of life. Through radios you begin to understand exactly what the strange pattern is and how much damage it's causing throughout the valley. Floating lights take you to different areas of the game to reveal what has happened to a particular character during the events of June 6th, 1984. Again, there's not a lot of conflict in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, but one area it does get right is dilemma. It gives the player a dilemma of whether or not to explore every nook and cranny of the game. This game can really test the patience of many modern day gamers. Most players today hate these type of games where there are no action and no bad guys to come and shoot you every few seconds. When this game was first revealed, it was called Walking Simulator 2015 by everyday users. This game requires a lot of exploration and patience to make it to the end of the game. For me personally, I love games that challenge me as much as any other gamer, but is not essential for my enjoyment of a game. I love a game with a great and immersive storyline more than anything else. Boundaries. There are a few boundaries in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. First of all, not every object in the game has interactivity. For example, there are lots of cars in the game, but you can't interact or drive with them. There is only one exception to this rule. Sometimes car doors are open and there are items inside for you to interact with. Also, there are some houses in the game that you can open the door and go inside, but this isn't the case for every house in the game world. The same goes for doors in the houses. Most doors lead to important areas of the house that reveals either a floating light or radio, but some doors remain locked at all times. Finally, the outcome of the game is to interact with all the floating lights on your way to the observatory. In the observatory you meet the final floating light, which brings your story to a close. Next I'm going to speak to you about the dramatic elements. First of all, I'm going to speak about challenge. The one area that I think that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture fails to capitalise on is challenge. There is nothing in the game to challenge the player. Most players need something to challenge them to give them a sense of accomplishment. In Everybody's Gone to the Rapture you need to explore every area of the map and there is nothing to stop you from going where you like. I think the game could have benefited from having some sort of puzzle to unlock parts of the story to keep the player's attention. You can clearly see the developers were looking to make a game for a particular type of player, and that is the explorer. The game is definitely catered towards players that are interested in the game world and love to go adventuring in the game. But in my opinion there are also two more gaming styles that this game suits. These are the director and the storyteller. The director loves to be in control of the game and direct how the game unfolds. This type of player would be perfect for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. The game never forces you to do anything you don't want to do, so the director would have complete control over the outcome of the game. The game would also suit the storyteller. I would class myself as a storyteller. I love to immerse myself in the game worlds and learn more about the people that live in this game world. I found it incredibly interesting exploring the game world and seeing how the people of Jotun Valley reacted and dealt with the events of June 6, 1984. After playing the game, you start to feel emotionally attached to these characters and you want to make it to the end of the game to learn exactly what happened to them. The premise for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is that on June 6, 1984, something has happened in Jotun Valley. The people have all disappeared, and it is up to you to find out what has happened to the people of Jotun. The main protagonist of the game is Dr. Catherine Collins. She's an American scientist who is one of the first people to discover the strange light patterns which appear to be an unknown form of life. She is married to Dr. Stephen Appleton, who works alongside Kate in the observatory. Very early on in the game, Stephen becomes the main antagonist. In the observatory, Kate and Stephen learn that the light patterns will cause an infection to spread throughout the valley. Stephen urges Kate to destroy the light pattern, but she refuses because she thinks it is trying to communicate with them and causes no threat. Stephen has family left below in the valley and he wants to help them out and make sure that they make it out alive. He leaves Catherine in the observatory and he goes back to everyone in the valley to warn them about what is to come. When playing throughout the story, you start to feel empathy towards the people you meet in the game world. For example, you meet Jeremy, the local vicar, who tries to remain calm when everyone else isn't. He tends to the sick and keeps the community together in their time of need. He is starting to lose faith because of what is happening in the valley. Wendy is Stephen's mother, who is not afraid to speak her mind to anyone. Even the local vicar gets a lot of abuse from her. But underneath it all, she's a very kind woman who would do anything for the people in her village. She stops talking to Stephen because she doesn't like his wife Kate. The locals think it is because Kate is not of the same colour as Stephen, but she denies this straight away. She just doesn't like that she brings science into the village, but deep down, all she wants is for her son to be happy. Frank is a lot like his sister Wendy. He's never afraid to speak his mind, but all in all, he's a very kind man. His wife died, and ever since then, he stopped talking to his sister Wendy. When his wife died, the strong and respectable man that the villagers view him as became a coward. He couldn't face his wife when she was on her deathbed. Deep inside, this hurt him, that he was never able to face his wife in her final moments, and he took this out on others that he encountered. Finally, there's Lizzie. Lizzie is married to the local drunk, but secretly she's having an affair with Stephen. Lizzie runs the local holiday camp. She takes all the children to the camp and puts on fun activities and shows to keep their minds off the events of what is going on in the valley. She makes plans to run away with Stephen and heads towards the local train station to leave everyone to their doom. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture follows the dramatic arc very well. The game starts with the rising action of what has happened to the people of Jotun Valley. The climax of the game is how the light patterns are starting to have an effect on the local population before we finally reach the resolution of the game. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is a very enjoyable game with a story filled with heartbreak and loss. You can't help but play through from beginning to end because you become so emotionally attached to the players you encountered along the way. Also worth mentioning is the beautiful game that the creators have managed to make. I found myself exploring the game world in awe of what surrounded me, but the best element of the game has to be the soundtrack. The soundtrack for the game perfectly fits the setting and conveys the emotion of the events of 1984. Thank you for watching.